our box, and I will see and let you know what I think of the cards that I pulled as we go along with it. So all boxes, they come with the old school ones anyways, the wave ones. They come with all 5 box toppers. Little mistake, but generous for us, for anybody who likes playing the game. And every box has 24 packs. Usually with like 2 Argent Rares and stuff like that, but the numbers have been very stable. So what we're hoping for is very good Argent Rares and very good stamp cards, if anything. So we'll get these out of the way. So it's a wave 1 issue, but we'll see that all the cards are going to be alphabetized. And what we're looking for are some of the cool things. So we'll go through the comments one by one. Brilliant Barriers. Right?
No.
Okay. So opening up another box, or pack. Pulled our first foil common. Pretty good. And Gigath. Gigath, I think, is going to have potential. Anything that comes out to play for free in a game based on mana is something to hold on to. So this is a card that I'm going to keep my eye on anytime an expansion comes out. The protection effect is very good. And it could be doubled with Rudy. So you can double protect your cards, which is fantastic. And you can discard like 10 cards to it and it won't matter. So long, like, it might be enough to put cards into game, in 4 games. So it's a very good card to hold on to, I think, in the future. Mel is fantastic. It's the reason why the gear deck, I think, is good. It gives you staying power. So I'm a big fan of this card. You should be playing 3 in all Liam decks. So we'll go through some of the other cards. Molten Explosion, one of the best red removal spells. Probably better than the Omega Magic for them, to be honest. It's just a solid removal spell, and 2k means you're destroying the Knight token if you trigger it, and most red decks want to be aggressive, so the Knight token can create a hurdle you'll go through, especially if you pop it early game. So this is one of the better cards to get rid of it. Let's go through the rest of the cards. Same thing. Red gears are always good. Both of them are just super playable. You're always going to play 3, probably for as long as they exist in the card game. I hope that they don't power creep those cards. Otherwise, the game might really be going down a path we don't want it to. Second foil, the Sandsea Traveler. That's a good one to pull. And our first Argent Rare. I think that one's Brant. Yes, Brant. So Brant is the underappreciated light Argent Rare. I still think he has potential. Getting quickness is very good in this game. You only have really 6 life in this game, so any attack being lethal, and getting quickness is probably one of the best effects you can have in the game. So, the boxes are mapped so that way we may not pull an Argent Rare on this side of the box, so everything else we're going to be pulling for is supers and rares, and hopefully one of the stamp cards. Skytree Hawk, an unappreciated air card. I don't think it's good enough to be attacking with, so it may not be the best card for current air builds right now, but in the future, I think these cards are going to be very good. Or this card is going to be one of the, like, a role player, a very good role player. So, our first Omega Magic. I believe there's supposed to be 2 per box, and they're always random.
Oh.
So, yeah. So, we pulled our first one. Hikari's not a bad one to pull. Again, I said with the Jillian deck about the tokens. So this is probably, if a Jillian deck were to do well, it's because you're generating tokens, and this is one of 3 cards, I believe, in the game that generate tokens. Between the Phantasmal Guards and this and Clone Reinforcements. Other than that, almost all light decks are going to want this effect, just because being able to insta-cast, put 2 units on the board is going to be very, very good, and usually a blowout, if your opponent doesn't expect it. And they happen to have Guardian, I believe, as well, too, so Guardian being probably the second best effect to have. Soul Transfer, one of the better Darkness cards, and our first 10 Shard Points. Shard Points, I think, are going to be really good, just because it usually takes average about 4 boxes before you get enough Shard Points to basically pick up another box. Mm-hmm. So it makes the investment of the game really cool, where it's like, if you're a person who likes buying packs, you'll get rewarded, where it's like you get 4 for the price of 5 or whatever, you know, or 5 for the price of 4. our second Omega Magic. Kasai. I think that one is the worst of the Omega Magics, but all those effects are still some of the best in the game. I mean, just being able to have 2 effects in one card is just good enough for 2 mana. You really can't go wrong with them. Pewter Gargoyle. So my idea with this card is that if Gigath ends up being good, likely it'll be with Luna on the side, where you discard these guys to Gigath to summon it from the graveyard. And then these guys are easy discard fodder, and all you need to do is make your opponent discard 1 card to bring them back. So it's sort of like a pseudo swarm, where you combine it with Gloom Oligarch to sacrifice them, make them discard a card, sacrifice them again. It's like a repeatable engine, and usually in games when you have repeatable engines like that are for free, similar to like in Magic and Blood Gas and things like that, using the graveyard as a resource is always a good thing. So this is another card I'd look out for. 4-shard Research Laboratory, Raw Wyvern rarity. If red aggro exists, it's likely because of the power of that card. 4 mana quickness is very good. And 1500 attack is the perfect number because it breaks all current towers legal. So it doesn't have to be higher or lower, it just doesn't matter. It's just as long as it can break a tower. That's what you want. For a Scarlet Egg, always good. And then Raza. Raza's a weird one because on the one hand, most light decks are gear-based decks, and you really don't want to be removing your gears in the graveyard because otherwise it'll make, I believe, what's his name? The other light Argent Rare. Longinus, I believe? But it makes it harder to cast them on the cheap, and it also makes your Melkorn Magicians harder to get their value off of them. But summoning 2 creatures for the price of 3 mana is not a bad effect at all. So we're on the other side of the box now. We open up the first 12. Sansi Covert, 4 mana card that may not see too much play, and we pulled our 3rd Secret Rare. Go ahead. Alright, we're good? Alright, so we cleaned up a little bit of the area so we could show off some of the other cards. I believe we pulled our 2nd shard, which is Bahamut. It's very weird because that card is obviously very powerful, and it may be very good, but unfortunately, red seems to be very low to the ground. So likely you don't want to jam an 8 mana card or 8 shard card into most red decks. But the off chance is that it's a great sideboard card either way, because if you want to have just a little bit of the late game, being able to expel a unit is fantastic. Because expelling means that Urgon doesn't get it back. And if your opponent messes up their placement, dealing 2,000 damage usually kills all units underneath like 3 or less. So most Guardians, the good ones, are under 3 or less. So it may lead to like 2-for-1s and having quickness, which is enough to blow out the game. So that's a very good card to have either way though. Something to stock up on. We pulled a Hannah Apprentice. Hannah's very weird, but luckily they balanced her by, or I guess they gave her a power buff by making it any 2-drop or less. So as a splash, you could play this in dark, bring back Golem of Devourments. In the blue list I play, which are very spell heavy, the Jillian ones, I use it to bring back Savage Mystic. So it's a very good card though. But maybe a little bit underpowered compared to the higher power level cards in just in the game in general. Luckily we pulled the Ayakuma Juggernaut. This is the better 5-drop, I believe. Being able to shard drain to give it not being able to be targeted, the hexproof as they call it, is very, very good. And it's usually a saving grace where if you have Ayakuma Juggernaut in play, this card likely will live until the next turn, or it will make sure that whatever you don't want to attack you will not hit you due to combat tricks making it so if they remove this from play, they still deal the damage and stuff. So if you want to protect yourself, that's probably the best card to play. We pulled another super rare, Iton. This might be the core of what green decks look like in the future. Just free effects from the graveyard. And he's one of the stronger ones, putting a 2500 body, which luckily he's a 4-drop too, so it curves perfectly into bringing out Garga early if you're playing Iton. So as your champion, likely the heart of what would be the future air decks or the combo-based air decks. And we pulled Jamail. So Jamal, not so much so. I don't think he has any home right now. Shard draining early seems pretty bad, and shard draining late to deal 1,000. It may not lead to much. 1,000 doesn't kill anything on turn 10, And if you start draining early, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. So not a card I'm too big of a fan of, but I could be wrong. Monarch Skydagger. The other, if the core of the decks, of the air decks, become something about bouncing your guys and returning items from the graveyard, this is the main engine, usually involving Kite. So pulling those, you want to usually have your play sets, because if you ever plan on playing green, this is probably going to be the reason why. As we keep going, more of the commons. Pull Lightning Shot, another super rare. So this box hasn't been that bad as far as the super rares too. Lightning Shot doesn't see too much play in the green decks because 3 mana to deal 3,000. It's not the best rate, even though it deals 1,000 to something else. But in reality, green decks should also be very low to the ground, and so you having a spare 3 mana it may not come up too oftenly, or in the games you're winning anyways. So you should be ahead on tempo usually when you play green. Foil Savage Mystic is fantastic. I believe this is one of the better cards in the game too. And you always want to pull Crystal, so even if it's the darkest one, it's just something to have. They're free to play as long as you splash the colors, so you really don't lose anything by playing them. So we're down to our last two. We haven't seen a stamp card, so hopefully the Argent rares, they were okay, but we'd like to see a stamp card to really see our value come back. We have a Rayana Spet Dragon. I haven't seen too many lists playing that card. Usually, what is it? It's 3 mana? Yeah. So on 3 mana, you usually want to play Dragonic Summoner. And I believe with Raging Shard Beast coming out, you're going to want to lower your count of 3 or higher. So on red list, you're going to have a good reason to play this card. So I believe it may not have a home right now or in the future, but it might need just a little bit more to buff it up. So Mr. Kins is fantastic. It's another super rare, probably one of the better 1-drops in the game. Just being able to draw a card basically and stuff like that. So we went through the box. No stamp cards, unfortunately. We pulled some good foil commons, good foil rares, a lot of potential cards, and our Argent rares on the medium end of things. But so you can't be wrong or can't be too upset about it. And yeah, that's enough of the box opening.
All right.
Yeah.
If you like that, you can like, comment, and subscribe.